I bet you were starting to think that this would never, ever end.
Yeah, I thought you were going a little long on that intro there, Scott.
I was trying to hit the streaming switch for our... We've got these cameras in here. I feel like I'm full
Being
NSA
watched.
mode, and the CIA's like, hey, what are you guys doing in there?
Yeah, Chris has set up a bunch of studio cameras here where you can watch us live online on our Facebook. It's Facebook, right? Facebook live stream? Yeah. And you can see us from different views in here if you would like to check us out on Facebook. Kind of fun. And Scott's still fiddling around with it.
Everything I do doesn't work. So if the station managers can hear me, come on, check this out. Otherwise, we're not going to stream. But once we do, we'll let you know.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's not working. But yeah, we are Prepper Talk Radio, the only real radio wave preparedness show in America.
Live broadcast from the 1640, as I mentioned before, amplitude modulation, AM frequency.
High in the Rocky Mountains.
I guess so. We're pretty high compared to other locations.
I was talking to a friend this morning who's 75 feet above sea level.
That's pretty low.
And he's in British Columbia. So he's very kind.
Mm-hmm. High northwise, but low.
Not apologetic.
How's that?
Well, everyone says, "Oh, Canadians are really good at apologizing," and I'm like, "Dude, he needed nothing to apologize for."
I've never heard that before.
I think it's just like a joke that goes around. But so we've got a fun show today. We've actually got a special guest. I'm going to bring him on right now while I introduce Chris Thorn of Drop Forged Survival. He's got a huge YouTube following. We've known him for a couple of years. Chris, thanks for joining us on the show. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having us.
All right, turn him up there, Scott.
Yep,
there we go.
We're gonna turn your volume up a little bit. We can barely hear you. So
all right.
There we go. That's perfect. So now, Chris, tell us, how did you get into the world of prepping, and then why did you decide to go public and help people?
You started a channel on YouTube. It's quite popular, and you've got other connections as well. We'd love to hear about all that stuff, and then we'll get into some more nitty-gritty stuff.
Oh, man. So where to start? Oh, wow. So about 5 years ago, I noticed that, actually, we're going to back it up. When I was a kid,
it all starts in our youth, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. My father was an ex-drill instructor, former Marine, for back in the 80s. And he kind of had some very light prepping philosophies. And when, in my teenage years, when the whole Y2K scare thing happened in 99 and everyone was freaking out, he kind of introduced me in a very, very fast way to prepping. We had big, huge 50-gallon drums of gas that were grounded with grounding wires. He had extra food, hundreds of gallons of water stored. It just kind of came out of nowhere because he was never like that. And I never saw that side of my father before. And he kind of just started explaining to me that he did it in a very simple way, because I would see things like 5 or 6 different types of deodorant in the house. I'm like, why do you have so many extras? You only need one at a time. When you need one, go to the store. You know, I was a kid. I didn't know.
That's the way everybody thinks nowadays, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that said, he told me that he goes, let's say I lose my job, bud. If I run into the situation that I have to go start looking for a job, he goes, I'd rather have extra detergent to wash my clothes. I'd rather be poor and have the supplies I need to smell good for my job interviews than not be prepared. And he just brought it down to kind of everyday terms for me. And I kind of, let it go to the back of my head, but then as I got older, I had to start adulting for myself, and I became a dad myself. And
adulting. That's always fun, right? Everyone thinks, oh, I can't wait to be an adult. I remember in high school, man, when I get old enough, I'm moving out. I'm on my own. Forget you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
That's my kids.
And now I'm like,
first few years.
Dang it, I'm adulting every day, and I can't get out of it.
Oh, yes. Now that I have teenage kids of my own, it's fun.
And personally, I have no problem with it. I was kind of the same way. Like, I want to be an adult, and I'm still perfectly happy with as I get older and older. I've got no complaints yet.
I don't know. I think taxes are a good complaint to have.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. But yes, taxation is theft.
Let's
continue.
I've got to have a monthly paycheck or some type of income to support feeding myself.
Yeah, my debt.
That's why I love the idea of preparedness and survival and off-grid living, because it gets you self-reliant. So let's go back. So as you were getting older and you started adulting. Sorry, we took you on a weird spin. But
Oh, it's
adulting.
fine. It happens.
We're good
It
at
happens
that.
all the time. Well, I ran into a few situations where I realized that having some extra supplies around from, simple things. It started out with like power outages, and there was some problems that I would have, so I wasn't prepared. So I started doing research, trying to find a way to plug these holes and solve these problems. And the rabbit hole, I was Alice, as it were, to the rabbit hole of prepping, and I just went online myself back around 2012, and I got buried pretty deep in the rabbit hole. So I just started learning this whole.
What do you mean by
I just
very,
started-
very deep?
Sure. I started discovering all these things that you could do ahead of time. That seems pretty obvious once you kind of learn it, about kind of planning for things in advance. The same way people would plan for retirement or health insurance or having, covers on their vehicle or making sure they have safety equipment when their kids go on a bike ride. Same concept, but just taken in a kind of more grander scale, as it were. So it's not really a weird sense. I was just like, oh yeah, if we have power outages, have a solar power generator or a gas genny or however you decide to do your thing if you find yourself in an extended situation. Or what if that happens in the wintertime where it's negative 10 degrees outside and you have no way to heat yourself and you don't have a fireplace in your home necessarily? How do you make these plans to set yourself up if those kind of things happen? So I started doing research and looking. It took about a year to kind of take my first steps. But that I just kind of hit the ground running, as it were, and now now we like to take our YouTube channel, and I never call myself an expert. Some people try to in the comment section because they see our following, but as a family channel, I just like to, as I discover new things and we explore and we gain knowledge ourselves, we like to share it with people, because the outdoors and prepping is exciting for us. It's discovering these new ways to be more prepared, be more adventurous, be more self-reliant. And it's just fun to be able to take that information and share it with viewers who may know more than me, who may know about the same, who have never got into this before. We really want to present it in an exciting fashion to get people excited about going outdoors, and kind of, especially when they introduce their families to it, if they've never been exposed, is it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom and mega serious right away. You don't want to hit them like, you're going to go to hell if you don't worship Jesus. Like, you don't. That's probably not the first way to, tell your date you want to get married. So
That's right. Well, and just like when we're growing up as youth, we all start out in prepping at a very young age in prepping. And as we prep more and like you say, go down the rabbit hole deeper, that age... we become more mature in our prepping age, I guess you could call it. And this is just something it's coming off the top of my head right now. So we get more mature. Things get more simple. They don't get more complex. They get more simple. And then we move towards more self-reliance. Is where for me, where all these things have been going my entire life. Yes, it's a lot about gear. We love gear. Scott and I are total gearheads. We can tell you're a gearhead by your YouTube channel as well, and we love talking gear. Gear is a very important part of prepping. And but as we mature, things change, and we adapt, and we grow, and our prepping age then begins to show after. Like so you really got into it about 2012. Yeah, I really got serious about 2013. I mean, real serious about 2013 as well. So
I've been kind of semi-serious my entire life.
Yeah.
Like when I first moved out of my house, and I grew up in Colorado, originally from Idaho, and his grandparents had big lots with lots of gardens. My parents had a big lot with a lot of gardens. We moved to Colorado. We put a big garden in the backyard, and it was just kind of how you do things. We had a year's supply of food like that. I just thought that was normal. I didn't know that was quote unquote prepping or quote unquote survivalist, right? I just thought that's how you live life. But my grandparents were the first generation off the farm, and so that is how they did life. And so to me, it made sense. So I moved out, and as a single guy with no money, I still had a little bit of a food supply, and I always tried to have at least 3 months. And then as I got through college on mostly food storage, which was at that time tons and tons of ramen, Spam, tuna, and whenever the job situation was good and student aid came through, then I would be fat and happy, high on the hog, right? But those small food storage solutions always got me through it. And then fast forward another 10, 15 years, I was living in California. I was living with a bunch of other guys. We each had rented out a room in this big house, and I had this raised bed. It was about 4 feet off the ground, and everyone's like, dude, what's with the giant stand on for your bed? And so I started showing them. I'm like, oh, here's what I do. I'm like, if I find out anyone's taking this, I will cut you. Don't touch my stuff.
You will get hurt.
And they're like, oh, you won't cut us. I'm like, try me. Nobody ever took my food. But under my bed, I had a 3.5 to 5 month supply of food all the time. I always had additional tools. I had buckets of water, sealed buckets. The 5-gallon jugs that you get from, like, I don't know, Colgan's and all the other Mr. Sparkle, whatever brand you want to call it. But I had a couple of those. And I learned that just from watching my parents growing up with it. I had the little 7-gallon drums, which was great. And then all the food storage, and then a couple of bug-out bags, which at the time I just called my 96-hour kits because I didn't know that there was a cooler term for it. But I told them, and they're like, well, this is kind of weird. Until one day I treated everybody to dinner out of food storage. And it was all freeze-dried. And they're like, what? You could do this?
Yeah.
What? And they felt like they were at Epcot Center in Disney World, like, this is science. Like, wow. The Dippin' Dots ice cream blew their minds. But it was incredible. They were like, this is easy. Oh. And so then I started helping them. Well, then I got married and moved to Utah. And after living here for a year, I just felt like I needed to start helping people get better prepared. And I'd already started associating myself as a prepper because I'd seen doomsday preppers. I'm like, okay, I'm not a doomsdayer, but I'm a total prepper. That's me. That's what I am. I'm like, this makes sense. I know who I am. And then...
And that's the reality of it truly is common sense.
Yeah.
And most people nowadays don't have that kind of common sense because they've allowed the system, or whatever you want to call it, to eliminate that common sense. It makes life easier, more...
They've handed off
more
their ability to take care of themselves for a false sense of security in someone else. And as soon as we do that, we give up liberty, right? So I started sharing this message of being prepared, and that's when the idea of PrepperCon hit me, and I broke the first 2 rules of prepping, right? It's just like Fight Club. The first rule of prepping, we don't talk about prepping. Second rule of prepping, we don't talk about prepping. I broke those rules, and I started telling everybody about prepping, and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to come to your house. I'm like, oh, I'll cut you, right? It's simple. Don't do that. Let me teach you how to get prepared so that you don't have to come to my house, because you live 20 miles away from me, and you're never going to make it. And by the time you maybe do get there, if you're still alive, there's not going to be any food or anything because I'll be gone. Oh, well, where are you going? I'm not telling you. And so give them enough to get
people's interest.
Yeah, give enough to get them interested. And then PrepperCon happened, and Shane and I met through that, and now we're all here on the radio. So I think we all have that kind of evolution of, okay, I'm understanding this for myself. I've gravitated to doing this. And now everybody else needs to know how I do this and why I do this so I can help. And we just hit our commercial break notification, so we're cutting out here in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, what I'd like to talk with you about after this break is my question is, what are you prepping for? What is it that you're taking most serious to prep for? So please hold on for us after the break. Listen to our sponsors, support our sponsors, and we'll catch you guys right after this break.
Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio here at K-Talk AM 1640. You're listening to Scott and Shane, and we've got a special guest today with us. It is the Dropped Forge Survival host of all hosts, the YouTube channel, Chris Thorn.
Now, Chris, I wanted to ask you...
Yes.
You don't show your face much or at all on your videos. Is that on purpose?
Actually, kind of. We had a philosophy. Some of my inspirations were Don Porter from Sensible Prepper, a.k.a. Soup00.
Okay.
And the Colonel from Nut and Fancy.
Okay.
They were kind of the 2 channels that really got me into wanting to create my own content.
Gotcha.
Their style was very gear-centric or topic-centric. They have cliff notes and field notes, and I kind of made a decision early on to focus, instead of just talking about myself for 15 minutes before the video got started on camera, is just go ahead and make really quick, energetic presentations of the gear, show it in use, and kind of just get it done instead of just adding all this extra stuff to it. Now, I mean,
you don't need the fluff. The fluff's not helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually got a guy on the phone. A caller called in, so let's bring him on the line. His name is Rob. He actually had a couple comments to make about prepping for us. Rob, are you there?
Hey, yeah. Hey, thanks.
Awesome.
How you doing?
You're welcome. So
Hey,
now, before
let me ask you. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say. So I was going to preface what you're talking about. So on the break, he called in, and we kind of started talking about his experience with the caucus, but also the that there is work that goes along with prepping. Right? There's work going along with being aware and knowing what's going on. So with that, I wanted to kind of lead into where you're going, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to understand the amount of exertion that it takes to get things done. I mean, you got to teach your kids that kind of stuff. I mean, people, like I went to the caucus and, I happened to be wearing my I'm the Virus Lavoy Finnegan shirt. And, all the people for some of the new candidates that were rallying around the new candidates, campaigning for them, they asked me about my shirt, and I said, you don't know who this is or know what this is about? And they had no clue. These are some younger kids.
Wow.
And then I had to kind of explain it to them. It's like, this is Lavoy Finnegan. This is the guy who got shot in Oregon your last winter that just went by. And, oh, that was the one with the drone coverage of the snow. And they had no idea the details. So obviously nobody's teaching them. I mean, my children know about that.
Well, I think that's the difference. Like, you're teaching your children. I think that's perfect for our conversation today. It's our responsibility to make sure the next generation continues to adhere to self-reliance, self-awareness, and understanding what's going on around them. If we don't help them do that, who will do that? Who will teach them?
They're not going to figure it out on their own.
Nobody. That's the exact answer. Nobody will teach them that. Someone that knows needs to teach them. That's our responsibility as parents, our responsibility as the elders of society, right?
That's right.
I'm only 40, but man, I feel like I know a lot more about self-reliance than I would say 95 to 98% of the people that I come across. Because I grew up with a family that they taught this. This was like almost a religious experience.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Absolutely.
Rob, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you bet.
Oh, I cut him off in the thank you, but we appreciate you, Rob. So now you said we started talking about kind of not.
Yeah, Chris. Obviously, a lot of your videos are oriented toward gear and such. So, I guess my question and all of our questions, we all are preparing for something, maybe something specific or something general. Would you be willing to share what you're preparing for? I mean, what are you concerned about in the future? What are those issues that you say? Oh, you see something coming that needs to be prepared for?
Sure. Personally, there's a lot of people that jump into the comments and kind of caveat this. A lot of people who kind of just chime in. They're not really regular viewers or subscribers. They'll kind of come in and like, oh, for the apocalypse or nuclear blast or zombies, you'd be dead anyway. And I'm like, well, yeah, but let's be real. A nuclear holocaust, as it were, is possible, but probably not as probable as some other things that do happen constantly. Additionally, even though zombies are fake, if you were to prepare for a zombie apocalypse, as it were, it doesn't matter if it's real or not, you're pretty much covering a lot of bases.
Yeah, good point.
It doesn't really... It's kind of the end of the world. So even if you kind of take that as a fun way to get your kids into it because it's a fun, like, mythical thing.
Yeah, and it's very popular on TV. Yeah.
You'd be training them for a lot of stuff.
I wouldn't watch those shows with my kids. Are you kidding me?
No. It depends on how old your kids are.
That's wholesome entertainment. Hey, kids, gather around the television while we
zombies.
Bleed our minds out and make things awkward when we try to sleep and we have nightmares.
Okay, the teenagers maybe, right?
I don't have those yet. So, no, I think it's funny. That is probably the best explanation of zombie prep that I've heard. Because it does apply to everything else. I've never even had someone tell me that, and now that you say it, I'm like, that actually makes sense. Because, like, I'm preparing mostly for a grid down scenario and unrest. Both of those can be covered in the zombie,
absolutely,
genre, right? Nuke, you can't really. Depending on where you go, it's basically the luck of the blast, right? And the fallout and the winds.
If you're within like 25 miles, you're dead anyway. There's nothing you could do. It didn't matter if you had a bunker. That bunker could be just rippled apart and the crack in the foundation. You're probably screwed. So it's kind of one of those. It's a very scary thing to think about. So if you're, I think the safe zone. I think the safe minimum. This last research I did was a few years ago. I think it was like 100 miles. Like as far as the radiation, all the fallout in the long term, like you're going to die. So.
Which still leaves a lot of places you could live and
Absolutely,
survive
but it
an apocalypse.
Depends on if if Dingleberry over in North Korea decided to have his way, or
Rocket
for any
Boy.
reason or something.
Rocket Man.
I mean, or something,
Rocket
or
Man?
some crazy World War VII kind of thing breaks out, and a whole bunch of them start flying. That 100-mile radius starts shrinking everywhere you're around. So it kind of makes it kind of because 85% of all the people in the country in North America or something live in major cities.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
Yeah,
and those are the places you would target to decimate a country and economic centers. So,
and I think the point is that regardless of what we're prepping for, it's going to make a difference.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, what's funny is like, okay, so the things we're talking about are like the big oh crap, right?
The big ones. Oh, yeah.
Big oh crap. Well, my prepping really focuses and centers around the life disruptions first and foremost, right? The joblessness, the economic crisis of everyday life. Like if I break my leg or my arm, or I can't work because of the injury, or worst case scenario, I'm alive but I'm an invalid. How does my family move on? Well, it's preparedness and self-reliance that gets us through that, and it's that mindset of teaching, of overcoming those obstacles and those challenges, which helps us to be able to adapt, overcome, and move on.
Yeah, the confidence that you build, you learn through prepping, teaches me that whatever is coming in the future, I can either handle it or I'm going to do pretty darn good at it.
Right. And handling it is something that's completely adaptable. The more confident you are and the more aware you are of what's going on, the more you've tried different things, the more likely you are to find a new solution to a problem that comes up that you've never faced before.
And the more gear you have, the better off you are, right?
Not necessarily.
Absolutely. No, not actually. That's actually, it's kind of a half answer, really, to be honest, if you don't mind me chiming in.
I love that.
To officially answer the question, the three things that I'm trying to round out my preps, as it were. So I'm trying to plan for things like a job loss, a market crash. I even have it written down, if you can hear that paper swirl. And then we're also preparing for things like natural disasters, because we live in the southern area of Texas. Hurricanes are a thing. And we just had to deal with Harvey. And, this season for hurricanes was pretty bad in our area. This whole region from Florida, Puerto Rico, all the way up through Texas got hit pretty hard overall this year. And we bugged out because the eye of the hurricane ended up coming straight towards San Antonio. It was right over the city. Now, we were very blessed that the city itself didn't get hit. It was the easterly band that rocked Houston. But I didn't know that. I saw a Category 5 hurricane coming, and I was like, I'm not playing chicken with something bigger than my county. That's stupid.
So here's the question. You said you bugged out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have a strategic relocation point that you went to?
We did. It was a temporary relocation. We actually, because we had money set aside for evacuations, we actually went about 4 hours, like northwest, and we went. That was our first stop. So if you noticed, it was pushing farther inland for whatever crazy reason. We knew that San Antonio was going to be one of the few areas that I could push and start really doing any damage, because it's like 2.5 hours inland. Hurricanes start losing a lot of the steam. So we knew if we went 3 or 4 hours back, things like flooding, power outages would be far less likely. So we just kind of kept it simple. We didn't want to freak out the kids and go full bug-out drills and go nuts. So we gathered everything up. We called our bosses, like, hey, we're not coming in. Hurricane's coming. But everyone kind of was starting to send out emails, and our bosses were kind of calling saying, hey, if you guys need to prep, if you guys are going to be leaving, just let us know. So our area was pretty set up. It was pretty cool how our workflow was able to be to work with us in that fashion. Right.
Yeah, they were able to handle it.
Absolutely. And then once we found out that it was going to come in, we left about a day early. We documented the whole thing, too, because we wanted people to learn from the experience, and we were very open and transparent about things we screwed up, too. We figured out different holes and problems we had in the initial bug out and things we got wrong, things we got right, and we were very transparent and open. It was very vulnerable because you're letting thousands of people know what you screwed up. But the awesome thing about that is because it ended up kind of being a bug-out drill, more of a training session for us personally, not so for people who were only 3 or 4 hours east of us natively. It made me like rethink everything, going, man, if more people were preppers or they got the evacuation notice and took that seriously, they would have been okay. But, I mean, millions of people were rocked for a while, and it took, I think, 2 or 3 months before people really started settling back down and getting back to normal. We had kind of like a fake gas scare in San Antonio because of the way the oil platforms were shut down for a little while. We didn't actually have an oil crisis, just people were panicking. So people were stocking up, and it was making the gas stations run dry. So the panic was causing more people to panic, and it kind of just spiraled. So for about a week, it was a little nuts. So if it wasn't for the fact you had food, water, and gas stores and things like that already set up, it kept my wife and I and my kids from having to venture out in the middle of that craziness.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's
now,
key.
If I remember, you guys are living in an apartment, right?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. So it's a whole set of challenges
you,
on its own.
Yeah, how do you manage living? Because a lot of our listeners have asked that question, and I've been there, but it's life always evolves and life's always different. I didn't have kids and a wife to worry about when I was apartment living. So as an apartment liver, how do you do your prepping? Like, how have you figured out how to store it, and where do you put it?
Okay, so, well, not mega specific details, but
not mega, definitely not.
General counts.
Yes, so you've got to think living vertically, if that makes any sense. Just how do you fit so many people in a tight space in a big city? You go up. So, like shelving units, organizing is super key. You have to be able to organize. You're going to have shelving on top of shelving, inside of shelving. You're going to make sure that, like, your bed frame is going to be a little higher up so you can tuck things under there. Like, you have limited space, so you have to be very you have to play Tetris every day.
Yeah.
And try to figure out where you're going to stick things. And we are kind of limited on space, so we go through about every 4 or 5 months, and we take stock of, okay, what do we really need? What have we noticed as a piece of gear? Like the last time we had a power outage or we did this, what could we go without because we've acquired new skills or taken new classes or gone to new training courses that would allow us to be able to handle and adapt more easily without having to stuff ourselves with junk.
I think that's really a key. And I don't think that's just for apartment dwellers. I mean, that's for all of us. We need to be assessing what we have and addressing where the gaps are, but also where we have an abundance of redundance. Let's taper that down a little bit. We've done that, and we've actually been able to give stuff away to family members who had gaps because we had an overabundance in a certain area. We're like, oh, well, we're totally covered in this. Well, let's hand this off to someone that could use it, that can't afford to go get it themselves.
And that's really why we're doing this, and I'm sure that's why you started as well, is to help others. And not just with our knowledge and our experience, but if we have the ability to, like, say, have a few extra this or that, pass it down to family and friends, teach them a little something about it, and inspire them. Yeah, hand-me-downs. Love hand-me-downs. We've got so many hand-me-downs over the years.
Prepper hand-me-downs are the coolest kind of hand-me-downs.
I wish I could get some prepper hand-me-downs. I'm usually the one handing down the prepper hand-me-downs.
If anything, well, it'll probably be when I'm like 60, when my dad passes away. But he's got all these old tools. And I'm like...
That's mine.
Keep
mine.
track of where Dad is at all times, because those things. It's funny because my wife's great grandparents, he had all these handwork tools for construction. All of them were hand operated, no electricity.
Tools, yeah.
It was like legit, like the good stuff. And when her aunt passed away, her grandparents passed away. Her aunt lived in their home afterwards, and then when she passed away, we found all this stuff. And they're like, okay, who wants what? And I'm like, oh, please. I'm like, honey, ask for those. That's all we want. I'm like, trust me. And she went to ask for them, and her uncle, who's still alive, was like, oh, no, I'm taking all of that. And I was like, curses! I was like, the one thing I was like, oh, I'm so excited, because everyone's like, we can just take this to
nobody
DI.
Wants the tools, yeah.
And I'm like, nobody wants these, but my uncle, who's awesome, her uncle, he's just like, oh no, I could use those. Those will come in handy in a disaster. And I'm like, he's the only other one in the family that gets it. I'm like, dang it. So he got the good stuff, but I kept track of where he is.
You know, right, where to get tools. And I think that's an important concept of prepping as well. Not everybody needs a full set of tools.
Right.
depending on what the craft is, what
It
you're
also
unique.
comes down to what your skill set is, because if you can't use
Yep.
any of the tools, why have them? But I can use all
Yeah,
those
learn
tools.
how to use them.
I grew up learning all those tools.
Again, back to gear and tools, because
I
tools
know.
are gear, and we love
Sure.
gear. We love tools.
I love tools and gear.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to hit a commercial break here in a minute, but when we come back, let's really get into gear.
Okay.
Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
how many
Yeah.
videos have you done just on gear reviews?
Gear reviews out of the 555 episodes we have right now.
552.
I would I would say at least 480 to 475 are strictly gear.
Gear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's what I know you most for is the gear reviews. I mean, and I've even seen you did you took those
Spit it out.
you made tomahawks out of some other axes. I don't know, I'm not even using the right terminology here. I just remember that's how I came across you, and then we met through PrepperCon because of that and because of hearing about us. And so it was kind of funny. Like
Yes.
I was like, hey, that's the guy that did the tomahawk
I know this
modification. I'm like, this is good. So when we get back, we're about to hit our break. When we get back from break, that's what we're going to focus on, guys. We're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about some of the coolest products he's reviewed, some of the worst products he's reviewed, and then talk about how it's important, more than gear, to sharpen the best tool, which is our mind. So stay
Mind,
tuned. You're listening to
absolutely.
K-Talk. This is Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded. And we are back. You're listening to Prepper Talk Radio here on K-Talk AM 1640. And before we jump back into our topic, we have a announcement. The March Before Our Lives, Salt Lake City, is scheduled for tomorrow, the 24th, meeting at 9:30, 10 a.m. at West High School, which is 241 North, 300 West, Salt Lake City.
This is a pro gun rally, pro gun
Yes.
walk. It's being held before the March for Our Lives anti-gun rally. So this is the pro gun March Before Our Lives rally put on by Utah Gun Exchange. And just to plug their website real quick, I use it all the time, utahgunexchange.com. You can also find Utah Gun Exchange on Facebook and find all the details about this event. And last time I checked, it showed upwards of 700 people that are planning on attending are going, and over 3,000 who are interested in going. So this is going to be a sizable event. So
Be
we want to
there.
plug this.
Get there.
I want to be there. I will be out of town, unfortunately, but I definitely want to urge you guys to attend this. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. So we've still got Drop Forged Survival, Chris Thorn with us, and we're going
Yes,
to talk
sir.
gear this last segment. But before we get into the gear, let's talk about where can everybody find you. So let's hear your website, your channels, and social media. Give
Everything
it
you
a
do.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So my shameless plug is Drop Forged Survival. Make sure you put the D on the end of Forged, because a lot of people don't. But Drop Forged Survival, we're that everywhere. Whether you're on Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, you can just type that in the search criteria, and you'll find us pretty fast.
Cool.
So, yeah.
But you also have a website. You sell some survival kits and such. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. I am the designer of the DFS Micro Plus Survival Kit from Go Prepared Survival. We teamed up with Sam over there, and we designed a survival kit that could fit in a cargo pocket, a glove box, and just kind of be a nice everyday survival kit to kind of see people through a 72-hour to 96-hour period without having to weigh themselves down if they find themselves like at a movie or traveling or somewhere and they don't have a full bug-out rig with them. They have something to supplement and try to see them through while they get themselves to safety or home.
So that's gopreparedsurvival.com. Is correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
And it's the DFS Micro Survival Kit. And last week we had Fowler on, and I noticed that he tested out that kit, put it through its paces, and gave it his stamp of approval.
Yes, sir. He was a pretty crazy dude. He didn't let us know what he was doing, and he kind of took it to an extreme level I wasn't expecting. But I was very thankful because he basically put himself in harm's way, even though he had a safety plan put in place before he started filming.
That's
He still
true.
put himself in a situation that if my kit didn't work, he could have gotten hypothermia, would have had to cut cameras, and go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't for the fact that my kit worked, I was just like, I was so thankful that I was like, this is why we went genuine military issue stuff. It was all USA made or imported or NATO issued. We wanted to make sure all the stuff. The kit's a little more expensive than most of the survival kits you can find online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, all the gear has true NSN numbers. There's true, genuine military issue products that are there that you would find that military guys, aviation pilots, all those guys that have those types of kits in planes, tanks, vehicles that are deployed downrange and in theaters, that's what they have with them. And that's what we wanted to make sure was in that kit.
Now, I definitely want to get one of these from you, so I'm going to contact you after the show. But one thing I noticed about a lot of your videos is you like putting together these kits in different varieties, different variations. And if you talk to Scott, he'll say that's what I do a lot too.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I would say that's all you do. When he's not working, he's kidding.
And
not kidding like I'm throwing out jokes. He's kitting. He's building kits.
Absolutely,
he's
yeah.
testing kits. He's modifying kits. I do that to probably 1/100th of what he does. I kind of build the kit. I mind map it all out before, and then I use it, and then leave it. Like I test it and then leave it. I don't adjust it. I don't tweak it until my 6-month mark when it's time to reevaluate my gear and see if my needs have changed. And I do that every April. Actually, this weekend is my check-in.
That's
I
true.
go through all my stuff, and then I'll do it again every October. Because with the seasonal changes, it's like perfect timing for me to go through everything.
Yeah, online you see, and on YouTube in particular, you see a lot of people putting together kits out of starting with like Altoids cans and doing a kit. Maybe it's a fishing kit or maybe it's a pocket survival kit, and then moving up to the size of bug out bags and whatever everywhere in between.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've been messing around with. Okay, what's the principle behind this? Why would someone want to build something this size? And what do I like best? What works best for me? And so that's what I've been toying with for months and months.
Anything you hand him that's a small container,
I like gadgets.
He'll go into it and think,
what can
how
I put
could I
in
make?
this?
What fits in here? Okay, we got a Victorinox over here. We've got a Sig P238.
I just picked up
here. There's a
I just picked up a couple of the Blue Line water filters
from Water Basic.
From Water Basis. They're Aquamira, and they're just very compact, very small. So they're going to have a place in one of my little compact kits.
There you go.
I'm always thinking, always trying to tweak things a little bit, find out what works best for me. So tell me, why are you so passionate also about these survival kits?
Well, there's different stages to the kits we build. I mean, we have the full 72-hour to 7-day kits, like the big ones that you'd put in up to possibly a 60-liter bag. But a lot of the things we like to cover is because we kind of got known early on for our everyday carry videos.
Yes.
Not saying we're the only, we're not by far the most popular, but as far as in our little bubble, that's what we kind of got popular for. So we started building these smaller kits. We went the generic Altoids route, but as time progressed, we kind of just started exploring and building kits. And I mean, I change kits daily, so not really that often. But so with one of the kits that was very popular was my 206-piece EDC Organizer Survival Kit.
In a Maxpedition, what do you call that little?
Maxpedition Fatty.
Yeah. I have one of those too, and I've been tweaking that kit for years, it feels like.
And we wanted to build, that was the first kit, actually that's what got Go Prepared Survival's attention to get them to start talking to me. This kit was, a lot of people couldn't believe we stuck 200 items that were useful in a kit this small, because it's not very big. This kit maybe is 3 pounds.
Yeah, it's not something you could put in your pocket, but you could hang it off your belt. You could put it in your business bag.
Yeah, and it's an awesome supplement. So in that particular kit, I have a way to cook food. I have first aid supplies. I have field poultry kits. I have a water filter, which is from Hydro Blue. They're a company, I believe, they're out of Utah, actually. They're associated with a company called 3V Gear. They do a lot of packs.
Yes. So it used to be Renovo, and they've changed it. That's right, to Hydro Blue. And they're always innovating. And the nice thing about their kits, or their filter systems, is Utah's got really, really dangerous water because of the mine tailings, all these open mines, and problems that we've got. And so they've gone above and beyond, well above and beyond. And I've tested their stuff. It's really quite quality. It's fantastic.
I'm gonna have to dig into it. All right, cool. So what have you found is your most used kit? What do you carry around the most? What is the best size? because there's these little teeny pocket ones. Like, I can't do much with that little pocket kit. And so I've gone up a little bit larger in size in a pocket kit, which I was the one I carry the most. And then it jumps all the way up to my go bag, whatever I want to call it. My tool bag, which is a full size, kind of a day pack size pack, Maxpedition pack. What do you find is the most effective for you? I mean, what kit are you liking the most?
Yes. So the kit that I do keep with me most often, if I leave the house, is the EDC organizer we just spoke about. That one's always with me. However, it's my everyday carry. What I physically have on me, that's what I notice is the most useful. Clearly, if it's not on you, it's not useful.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We've decided we made a video a few months back. The video, it kind of got a little steam. I think it was like 11,000 views on it. And it was, can you survive with just your everyday carry? I believe we renamed the video since then. But it was designed to test the theory that you're allowed to kind of rig your EDC personally before you do a challenge. This particular challenge we created. Mm-hmm. And it was designed to, can you survive with just things that you can fit in your pockets? You're supposed to look gray man every day, just as you would as when you go to school, when you go to work. You're not supposed to look any different. So things like gear from Wazoo Survival Gear, like their cache belt, their cache hat, having things like cargo pants if you can get away with it, if it's permissible wherever you're at, things like that.
Check out 511 Tactical because they've got these flat cargos that you can't see the pockets. It's beautiful. I wear those all the time.
Yep.
So the whole concept was, if we spent the entire day, a 24-hour period in the outdoors, could we complete a series of survival tasks, like being able to forage and prepare and eat a meal outside? You have to be able to forage, find, purify, clean, and drink water. You have to be able to build a shelter. Like all these survival things that you would have to be able to accomplish regardless of the area you're in to keep yourself alive. You have to be able to start a fire, do all these things. And if you can't answer all these questions, well, how ready are you for your EDC? So for anybody who takes this seriously, that was the thing. I didn't know how I could answer that question for myself definitively. So I decided to do some research. I spent a few months looking at the topic, and I've noticed that the things that I put in my everyday carry now are geared in a hybrid, because we live in a major city, a huge city of San Antonio. However, right outside of San Antonio is nothing for a long time. Everywhere,
in
any direction.
I think that's the key with any kit. I think it's a great exercise for everyone to put their own kit together and learn what they need for their environment. Up in Utah is obviously much different than in Texas. I'm going to need different gear here than you will down there, and vice versa. And
I think it goes back. Like we're almost done with our book. Oh my gosh, we keep revising it.
I know.
But our whole philosophy is the ready radius. Right. What you have on you is the most important thing, tangibly, that you can grasp, but what is the most important thing overall, right? And everything that you do should get you to the next ring. So what you have on you should be able to get you to your car, to an office, to somewhere where you have other additional resources. And then using your mind to utilize those resources in other ways that maybe they're not necessarily primarily intended for, but to repurpose. And then that gets you to the next ring. And so we're so excited to launch this, but it's the same philosophy. It's how do we use what we have the most efficiently and most effectively, so I don't have to carry a ton of things. So
that only comes with practice and putting your own kits together.
Absolutely.
But what I wanted to say is, if you're going to start anywhere, start with this DFS Micro Survival Kit, because that is, like you said, it's a little bit more expensive, but it has good quality stuff in it. So I would start there with the survival kit, and then from there, like you say on your video, okay, open it up, use it, put some other stuff in that you feel you need, take stuff out you're not going to use, and customize it and start there, because I think that's a perfect place to start.
It's a perfect launch point to get people started if you've never dove into it and you really want a chance to have high-quality gear that you can experiment with and use, and that I know 100% it'll work, because we've gone through about 4 or 5 versions of each one to make sure it worked, and every single time it didn't fail us.
And they're not just one-time use in particular. There are things you can use over and over again, like you say, EDC is a big thing for you. We are big on EDC as well, and
Absolutely.
Part of my kits are always things that I could use every day, that I do use every day, that are quality, and not just like some of these kits that are very inexpensive. Use it once, you throw it away, it's done.
Yeah, and I kind of utilize a hybrid combination between the two. Like I'll carry some of this use once stuff on me, but then I have a more robust pack in the car. Everywhere I go, I've got robust packs in the car, so that I can walk home when needed, right? So I can get to where I need to get.
Get your next ring.
Next ring, radios, stuff like that. My next project for my car is actually a CB radio for my personal rig, and then a ham radio. And there's other things to add too, but when you scale it all back, like what the EDC is so versatile.
And it's a great place to start,
it's
too.
It's the best place for people to start because you don't have to spend a ton of money and you don't need a ton of things. You get one or two things at a time and you learn how to use them and how they can be used, and you test them, and man, that takes you anywhere you need to go.
Yeah, start with a pocket knife, start with a flashlight, and build from there.
Fire starters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many little things.
Really good multi-tool if you live in a weird city or state that you can't have a dedicated knife, but the multi-tools are okay. Those are amazing because of all the urban and wilderness applications, especially if you go with a company like the Gerber Center Drive, for instance. I'm not sponsored by them or anything.
Victorinox is my brand.
Victorinox makes some amazing
I have to throw that in there.
You guys can go into a
I
whole
also
debate.
like Leatherman too, so I like all. I have to be.
There's a lot of good
Switzerland
ones out
because
there.
of the channel.
Well, we are out of time.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Chris, for joining with us this week. This has been Chris with Drop Forged Survival, Drop Forged with a D, and this is Scott and Shane with Prepper Talk Radio signing off. Next week's going to be a recording, but we'll be back the week after that with some new content.
See you guys. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for having us.
Find
Thank
that
you.
meaningful connection. And Match is not only #1 in